Okay, and I think I've kept everybody unmuted, which might have been a problem. I don't know. So yeah, so just watch how your body feels, I would say, and it's a good one, and it's a beginning of it's a it's Ming Tong's way of kind of completing circuits in the body. So making these connections between parts of our body to promote openness and diminish any stagnation or holding or release. So these connections are intended to basically open the body, and I just want to play with them from time to time. They're really wonderful practices, I think. So, and they fit right in with what we're trying to do with, especially IYTC, and promoting the creativity of our intelligence to look inside our body. And getting the awareness to feeling the awareness in different parts of the body. The awareness is usually up here. It's reading the news, watching TV, I don't know. And so these practices will be useful as our lives unfold, and maybe particularly useful right at the end of our lives in order to just remain calm in the face of uncertain, mysterious forces at work. So I watched my friend Chuck pass this past March, and a lot of the time it felt like we were just sitting around a fire together, and we weren't really talking anymore, but we were sharing the warmth of the fire. And that's when you can't use your body anymore, and you can't use your speech, and your eyesight has left you, this slow internal gathering of your awareness. It may be good to be peaceable deep inside yourself, so that you won't become panicky and want to get out of this nightmare, but just participate in it. And anyway, it's something that's been in my mind, and I just can't tell you how important I think being able to rest your awareness not only in the dantian but in your heart, I think, and up in the third eye as well, by way, various parts of our body that can support us in different times. So any questions or comments on that stuff?
Yeah, what is that called? If you had to give it a name to what we just did, so I can go back to it. And
yeah, it's you know, and I am not a certified teacher of Ming Tong Gu's program, and I'm a little sheepish in presenting it, but I've done it a lot, and I've taken it to be my own, and I feel that it's okay to talk about it. He calls it, this is from lift chi up, pour chi down. And if you imagine that taking the chi from the water, bringing it above your head and letting it pour down through your body, that is the basic idea. And I have taken it from my own and hybridized it slightly. So I want to be careful with talking about it that way, but I'm doing it out of deep respect and appreciation, and it comes from my time in retreat with Ming Tong Gu, and my brother Tom, who was doing a retreat at the same time. Some of you know this, but my brother Tom is currently living with ALS, and so these experiences are rich and ripe for just being a human being and kind of working through things. So lift you up, port you down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, I had a hard time hearing you. I don't know if anybody else did.
Really?
Yeah.
Darn
Yeah.
it. I wonder if let me play with it. I apologize, you guys. Darn it all. Let me turn I wonder if is it better now?
Well, we can hear you now. Now is fine. It was when you were
Quiet.
When I was, well, I'm turning up the volume on this little guy. And it's being picked up right through this mic. This is the only mic operating right now. So I probably got a little meditative in my own mind and was pretty quiet. So it's hard sometimes to participate in the practice and try to produce language when your mind is so relaxed. So I do probably lose track of my volume a little bit. So can you tell a difference between like this and this?
Un poquito.
Un poquito. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think it feels like we're still early days on this, and eventually I may have to get a headset and bring it right in front of my mouth or something. But so I guess when you listen to it if you want to use this again, just turn your volume up, put it on TV or turn your volume up somehow. Try to manipulate it from the listening side of it. I apologize. We'll get better, I promise. At least I'll try. How did people do with the bone marrow, by the way? I mean, that one where did that create tension in your body for anybody, or?
I didn't hear that word.
Yeah.
The bone marrow? When we were doing the rotation,
Oh,
when we were doing this one and rotating on either side of the body, that's the bone marrow practice.
Oh, yeah. Very relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I became acutely aware of my feet.
Yeah.
And my ankles wanted to turn and shift, and my weight was really wanting to shift a lot in the direction I was turning. And so it really allowed me to be more sensitive to having equal pressure on the bottom of my feet. And I could really tell if my weight was shifting at all in favor of the direction I was turning.
Excellent. That's really good, Randall.
Yeah.
And the key is, of course, to try to keep your footprint as even on the ground as possible. And so the desire will be to kind of shift and rock the foot up as we turn in one direction or the other. But keeping that foot flat will deepen that spiraling effect into the body. So that's a really, that's a significant awareness to have in your feet that way. That's good. The ankles are super important to getting the energy to travel up into the body. And so playing with them in a variety of fashions is really important.
The vision I had during that was squeezing a dish rag.
That's the one I get a lot of time, just kind of, and that's where I got that orange zest kind of thing, just squeeze it out, so yeah.
Bill, are you saying that in that exercise, we're kind of feeling everything condensing into the spine, and the spine is getting a twist.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, he would spend time talking about all these exercises, and this one, I really think it was spiraling in was in order to go deep in the bones. And it felt like it was mostly in the spine that it was happening, but ultimately it also felt like everything was kind of going like this. And so that there was a energetic infusion deep inside the bones that was, I don't know, something like that. But I think that's the idea, that at the center of the bone and the bone marrow, and all the bones have this apparently, you know, this is where the blood is, I guess I don't know, somebody else knows better than me, I'm sure, but just this work, it's in order to get inside the bones. There's, I mean, so in Tai Chi, this idea of sinking into the bones is important. And actually the second Qigong has the same quality. So the first Qigong, we operate at the level of the surface of the body. The second Qigong, we sink from the surface down and try to get ever deeper into the bones. And it's this condensing. And this is the idea of steel wrapped in cotton that comes in Tai Chi metaphors often. Everything wants to soften, and the bones actually become honed and richly cultivated for depth and strength deep inside. So that's the goal. That's one of the metaphors.
Yeah, Bill, the bone marrow produces the stem cells that merge into red or become red and white blood cells in our bodies.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. So this is it has a lot to do with the chi of the blood.
Yeah.
Hematology, health, hematological health, things like that. So there, you know, and this is, we spent a fair amount of time on this. I know because Ming Tong had several people with leukemia at this retreat, and he felt like this was a really important one for them. All right. I don't want to take too much more time, but anybody else have, feel free. I mean, we have all the time in the world, I guess. So you have questions, but if not, we don't have to hang out. So great. I thank you for playing with this.
I do have a sort of a simple question, I think.
Okay.
Is, I mean, this particular practice is completely new for me. And so.
Have you never done this one with me before, Rick?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoyed it, and I definitely will practice it. And I tried doing this outside today, and that turned out to be a mistake. So I'll do it when the recording. But again, I mean, like we were talking the other day, when you, as a new person or as a student that's approaching this for the first time, how would you sort of go about practicing this particular exercise?
I would just break it apart into small bits, and I would start with the one with just using the Lao Gong and this point here, and stimulating the bubbling well with the hand flat to the ground. I mean, that would be one, and then just bringing the fingertips up to connect to Dantian, Mingmen, throat notch, Da Bao in through the chest into the heart area. You know, some things like that, I think those connections are good ones. You know, I'm kind of part of my goal in this pandemic time has become to create a library of the practices that I've encountered. And so I am unfairly giving you guys way too much, way too fast. And so but I'm doing it to sort of get the practices out there, at least at the beginning, and then we will encounter them in the years ahead. So I don't want you to worry too much about, oh, I got to do this one and that one and this other one. And geez, he gave me this thing too. And don't worry about that too much. And I think for those of you who are also doing Yang, I think the spinal Qigong, grasping sparrow's tail, and the spinal Qigong, those are really good for that practice. For IYTC, it's the Shen Yi Qi Qigong in whatever part of the form you know. These practices on Thursday are a little bit more smorgasbordy, and you can return to them. So I would kind of segregate these videos into a separate spot. These are things that you might want to do in a different environment, or you could relax with them early evening or something to relax your body. You could decide how best to use them yourself. And they're important. I don't get to practice everything I know. I just don't have the time. And so, but I want to use this time not to lose track of the things that I find useful and important in my experience, and to share them with you. And particularly for people like Felix and Allie who are teaching now, so that they get this really in their repertoire to share it around. And so that's part of what I'm doing. And so I would say, maybe on one day of the week you can focus on the Thursday things, but on the other days maybe focus on your own. I know you're doing professor's form, Rick, so it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful practices. One thing Ben Lowe said, and I will just put this out there again, and I feel like I'm kind of breaking this rule with you guys a little bit. He said, don't dig a lot of holes, you won't hit water. And so to me, this is 30 years of my practice experience that I'm doling out to you over the last 3 months. And so it's 2 months, whatever. So it's a lot fast. And I haven't touched on everything, but I've shown you quite a few different things. And in a way, I want to hold your attention, but our practice as we go forward, it will be repeating. It'll be going back and saying, we did this before. I think we did this lift chi up, pour chi down at least one other time, maybe early on, and that maybe Rick, you missed somehow, but I realized that it's important to extending chi and shen like we do in IYTC. It's really similar and important that way. And so, so that's the good news and the bad news. So it's my intention to more or less stay with this, but as time goes by, there'll be less new things. I mean, and a year from now, if we're still doing this, it'll be repeating, it'll be looking at parts of the form that you've been through before. I imagine IYTC will take us a good year to get through. The Yang style will take us probably 6 months, 4 to 6 months maybe to get through. And once we're through, it's repeating. It's just repeating those things. And there's going to be a lot of repeating going on while we're getting through it. But these, it's a slow process. And that's kind of why kids don't do well with this process. I mean, it's not for an ADHD mind. It's water on rocks a lot of time. And So, but I'm happy to have some playmates with me.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill, may I ask one other question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Be too long of a question for today, but so in the Yang Forum, Professors Forum, we talk about beautiful lady's hand, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in the Qigong practice, and we're doing a lot of things where we're bending the wrist, and can you give me some perspective in terms of maybe why Professor teaches the Yang form with the beautiful lady's hand, and but we in IYTC and in Qigong we're doing other things?
I would say that Professor was interested in getting the chi to extend all the way to the fingertips, and that is a problem with people. And so other forms and practices have different ways to encourage that. When we use the spirit sword, and for instance, the sword play, we're really extending the chi right out to the extremities of the arms. And so, but there's improper use of the hand in IYTC as well. So I think that you may see what looks like paradoxical or error in other forms, the way they use their wrists and hands. I would say look into that a little bit more, and there may be different explanations than you're currently getting out of just using the 5 principles that Ben talks about, the beautiful lady's hands. And beautiful lady hand is important to see that this is a kinked hand, and or this is kinked, this is kinked, or some other. So looking at how to keep the wrist open and the energy extended out to the fingertips. That's really what I think is intended.
That gives me something to think about and play. Appreciate it.
I mean, I remember when I saw Robert for the first time, and I thought, well, Robert's not doing the 5 principles. I just thought, this is, heresy. Off with that guy's head right away. And then when I pushed hands with him, and it just felt like I was touching, I don't know what, a ghost. But so the proof was in the pudding, and the pudding was his push hands was impossible to touch. And so I said, okay, it doesn't seem like he's doing what Ben wants us to do all the time. Maybe he's doing something, maybe he's got something else. And so I started opening up. I was quite affronted, and I had some trouble getting beyond Robert not doing it the way Ben did it. But I always thought, oh, how would Robert and Ben get along? I mean, Robert met Ben and studied with him a couple times. But I think Robert would have given Ben a run for his money on, maybe Robert was better than Ben, I don't know. But they're both really good and kind of focused on different energies. And I guess to end this, I would just say, there's maybe more than one path up the mountain.